Welcome to Envision Radio from the United Way of Greater Charlottesville and City of Promise. News Radio 98.9, 1070 AM WINA. Price and Markey here. Back in the studio or in another long run of, it's probably our longest run of consecutive shows.
Don't speak too soon.
We're
going to take a break.
That is true.
We're about to come up on a break.
We're coming into the holidays. It's going to start getting cold. You know, everything gets a little bit harder. But more importantly, we are here today with Deanna McDonald, who is involved in what appears to be everything. Deanna, I don't know if you know this, but before we record this show, we get notes and we sort of look up people and look at stuff and da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, everyone sends in a little flavor of something, and then I do some Googling and kind of fill in some gaps. And depending on, you know, sort of people's age and experience and profession, it's everything from, you know, so-and-so is the, you know, coordinator of this at this. So-and-so is Sean Singletary is the... You're in that mode of like, I just stopped adding stuff at some point. I just like, I have this thing here, which is community health worker. It's an advocate at mass. And then I was like, all right, I'd just rather you tell it. So at some point, they're going to listen to me read 5 minutes of credentials and a very impressive resume, or they would rather hear it from you. So tell us a little bit about you know, who you are, and then we'll start with the fun stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. I am Deanna McDonald. I am a mother, a wife, a nurse, a community health advocate. I am a community health worker. I am a businesswoman. I am...
See, I told you. Sounds better when you say
I love it.
A mentor, a sister, an auntie. I am... every woman.
Every woman.
She is in me. And I am you.
I was thinking just that. I was like, I'm every woman. Like,
yes,
you can't sing too much because then you owe them royalties.
I don't think we're quite there yet.
No.
I don't think anybody's flagging our musical choices yet. It's a good problem to have, but I don't think we have to clear any samples quite yet.
Do you got the sample money?
Well, but no, seriously, I am you and you are me, and that is really my motto. Like, it could be me, period.
It could be me.
Yeah,
I love that.
Is that a Kirk Franklin? Could have been me.
It could have been.
Yeah. That's the one.
Okay, we got
Is
music.
that right?
I am also a singer, so there's that.
You sing too?
Yes.
Like,
I am a child of God.
Oh, but
and I love
is
to
that the
worship.
church?
Yes, absolutely. I love
Amen.
to worship. Absolutely. Yes, first and foremost, I am a child of God.
And talk a little about your one of I think the only consistent thing we've ever done on the show is ask people where they came up. So talk a little bit about early Deanna, where you came up, and we're going to put the pieces together. Right? How did you get to be you?
Yeah, so I am my birthplace was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay. So I'm a city girl. Yes. However, I spent the summers here because my grandparents and 5 generations back are Charlottesville, Colesville. Yes. So my great grandparents helped to build the railroad that brought commerce to Charlottesville. So literally, there's a road with my name on it, that my maiden name, Henderson Road, out in Colesville. Like,
oh wow,
I am, you know,
it's in the soil,
right?
Yeah, that's right.
These are roots, and then I grew up some in New Jersey and here, and so I've always been connected to this place. Summers out in the country, North Garden.
Sure.
You know, we had to play outside. You know, you didn't come in the house.
That's right. That's right.
And so that is who I am. I'm kind of a mix of all of the things. I came here by way of Georgia, so I spent some time in the deep South.
You said I had to go a little north, a little norther than that.
Yeah, I was a corporate banker for quite a while, so I started in banking, and then decided that I wanted to live on purpose. And I had an amazing boss that asked me one day.
In the banking world, I
was working. Actually, he was an attorney. And randomly, I came here actually by way of divorce. I came here to live, and I took a job because corporate banking is not Charlottesville, right?
Right. Yeah, sure.
So I was working for the American Watch Association. So I was up on the Hill and, you know, advocating for, you know, watches and all of the things.
Right.
And one day he said, if you don't want to do this, working with a bunch of old white men on the hill all the time. What would you do? And I'll support you. And I was like, oh.
That's the first somebody asked you.
Like the first time it was like a choice because otherwise
you
in
worked
life
to work,
I was doing
cash the checks,
the things exactly.
Sure.
Yes. So this was my chance to live on purpose, and that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
So you is your pedagogical background in finance? Is that what you sort of thought you would do?
That is what I thought I would do. Like literally, I had been in banking since I was 16 years old.
What?
Like literally, it was like. First, not the first real job. I did something with immigration first, and I thought like, oh, this is fun. And then first real job was banking, PSFS, literally. And so that's where I thought I was going to do. Math came easy. Okay. It was just the thing. I was like, okay. And then, as I said, I ended up in corporate banking in Atlanta, and Atlanta was the place to be.
That was what I was about to say. Young that had to be right around things were popping off in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Black Mecca, right? That's right. So that's where I thought I was going to be. But interestingly enough, I switched back to 16 years old, and my favorite uncle was dying of AIDS. And that was, AIDS was kind of real new then. Everybody was, unsure. It was kind of like COVID, right? That novel thing. Nobody really knew what was going on.
Right.
And my grandmother and my mother left me with him, and I was just supposed to keep an eye on him for 15 minutes or what have you. And he had used the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, well, let's take care of it. I was 16 and I was knee deep, and I might have been 15. Knee deep, and when they came in, they were like, no, what are you doing? Right. And I was like, I'm helping my uncle. It was just naturally, we take care of each other, right? I've seen you guys do it.
Right.
And that's what I did. And so that was literally my introduction to nursing. That was taking care of people is just natural, right? What we should do, just as people, service.
So when you decide, someone asks you for the first time in your life to make a choice on, is this what you want to do? And if it's not what you want to do, let's point you in a direction of doing it. Tell us how nursing came into the picture. From there. Did you go to a program and start doing nursing from the bank? You just
literally. So I left the bank. I came here. And I was doing this consulting work with the attorney, and he asked me if, what I wanted to do. And it was and I enrolled in nursing school. Literally, that's what I did. I enrolled in nursing school. This is a second career. I went to Piedmont, Virginia Community College. And from there, I went to the University of Virginia and got my bachelor's degree in nursing. And I've been there just in that lane. And then, I was nursing, and I've done all types of nursing, med surgical, oncology nursing, long-term care. I was a assisted living clinical nurse manager. I've been, taking care of people. And this is my company name is RN Heart Work. And literally, this is my heart's work. So that is the reason for my company name. This is what I do. This is what fills my cup, taking care of people. So
can you talk a little bit about your company and how it correlates with nursing for those who may not know? Yeah.
So RN Heart Work, health education, coaching and consulting, community health advocacy, most importantly, health literacy, right? I am about empowering people, right? I partner alongside people. I am not going to fix anyone's problems, but I can support you through it. The healing process. I like to teach people about healing, particularly Black people, because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I got hurt as a kid, it was all right, brush it off. That was it. Get up, brush it off, and drive on. There you go, right? Rub it in. That's the stuff that makes you strong. My son and I just had a conversation. Pain is just weakness leaving the body, right?
I heard that so many times,
right? And so I came to this epiphany literally a little bit before COVID. So part of nursing is education. So educating people. And that was what I loved about being a bedside nurse, that I could help teach people how to take care of themselves, right? How not to land in the hospital, because the hospital's not the place you want to be, right? And then as business happens, right? It's about the dollars and cents, the bottom line. Get them out the door, get them, checking the boxes, right? And people are not boxes to check, right? I need to make sure that they know how to care for themselves when they get home. And if it takes more than 10 minutes, it takes more than 10 minutes. And so, but also when people are in the hospital, they are acutely ill, right? It is really not the time to be trying to educate people. You want them to retain something. Right. I'm in pain. I'm stressed. This bill is adding up. Stop talking to me, lady. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Like all of those things. And so I found that I wanted to spend more time empowering people to care for themselves, right? We are a people who have done that. So when you talk about community health worker, I am an adjunct professor and I teach community health workers, right? Everyone that cares for someone is a community health worker, period.
Love that.
Right? It takes a village, literally, right? And so that is what I do. That is how I live. And so that is what my company is born of. And so any opportunity to teach people, to educate people, to help them move the needle for themselves.
How old were you when you switched professions?
Literally, you asked me how old I am?
How old you are now? How old you were then?
How old was I?
Yeah.
I think we should take pride in our age.
We're
living.
You're right.
We have survived.
You're right.
Every year it's a blessing.
You're right. And I am a woman.
But my grandmother hates it. She get mad when you. She don't even want you to ask somebody else. I was calling my cousin that when we're young, we're both young, and I was like, "You getting old, girl?" Ha ha ha. My grandma said, "You ain't supposed to say that." I said, "Grandma, we just joking."
The point at which I am someone's grandfather, I'm gonna tell everybody how old I am. I'm gonna be shouting that. I'll be like, I've been around a long time.
Yeah, I'm trying to get great. I love a great lock. Okay,
that's right.
Actually, I do embrace age because the alternative sucks.
Right? I mean, it's better than the alternative.
Better old than dead.
There you go.
That's exactly right.
And so, literally, I was like 35.
And so, why I asked, because that's a dramatic lane change, right? And it's a dramatic lane change, I would argue, at an age when many people feel like they should either be established or be on the road to being established, right? That's sort of that age where, that's how old I'm 36, but like, you're like, I've paid my dues, I have found my thing, now I am ascending in that thing. I don't think the mindset for people would typically be like, not only let me do something different, let me do something that's wholly unrelated, right? If you had gone into like, okay, I'm going to go into investment banking, I'm going to go into something that's different but the same, and I can leverage my reputation, people would be like, okay, cool. Do you have any memory of what that was like? Where people like, yo, hold on, like that's a big deal, right? At a time of life that, again, I think people interpret as like you shouldn't start over.
You know what? It's funny that you say that. So a big part of what I do is I support self-actualization, right? Embracing you and becoming the best you. And that is what I do. And that was what it was for me. It was really living in the moment, not who said I should be. I am who God says I am, period. And I evolve. People change. Life changes every day. Every second is a gift, right? It wasn't guaranteed, and I got to be here today, right? I am grateful for this. New mercies every day, and that is literally what I live in. And I had an amazing grandmother who, she was there with me going along the way, like all the bumps and bruises. I mean, my grandma does not have any cut cards. Like if you're getting it wrong, she's gonna let you know, and if you're getting it right, she's gonna let you know. But also partnering alongside with you along the way. She's like, okay, so what we doing, right? If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. And she's one of those. It's like, I know it's gonna be great, right? When I didn't know, right?
Sure.
She's like, I know it's gonna be great, whatever you're gonna do. And that is literally what sustained me. It's those support people in your life, those people who pour into you and say, okay, so we're having a reset. What does that look like? And she supported me during the reset amazingly. It was my grandmother.
Would you consider yourself and your experience the exception of the rule? And I ask that because you are also a mom and you have kids who are growing up and is sort of becoming those people, right? As you look at them and you look at their path or whatever path they're on now, and it'll change and it'll wind up. But I would assume you're gonna have that conversation if you haven't already. Of like, okay, I went to school to do X. X is terrible, right? Can I explore other stuff? Can I explore sort of the disparate parts of either what I'm interested in or what's new? And I mean, do you look at your experience as one that can be replicated, or are you like, I actually got pretty lucky. I had a really good support system. I was smart and diligent enough to figure it out. And you could even argue that a change at that age could potentially be easier insofar you're a little more worldly and stable than you are at 21, 22, 23. You're like, I understand the game. I know what it takes to get through a difficult program, blah, 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 blah. So if you reflect on yourself and then sort of map that to you as a mom, right, does that affect the advice you give your kids? Or are you like, listen, this was a little bit of an exceptional example? Or is that something that you would tell people like, hey, look, you can be in your mid-30s and jump left?
That is exactly what I would tell people.
Really?
You choose every day, right? So we can choose to react to what is happening in our environment, or we can be responsive, right? And responding is always better than reacting, right? Because I'm intentional in my response. Take a beat, look at the lay of the land. A part of being a nurse is assessment. I'm going to look at the whole picture, and then I'm going to make an informed decision. And that is what education is about, right? Knowledge is power. And one of those things that grounds me is my spirituality. And, my people perish for lack of knowledge, right? There was somebody that said, if you want to keep something from somebody, put it in a book because they're not going to read, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, then let me read the book for you and interpret it. If I need to be the interpreter, however, we need to get that knowledge. Like, gatekeeping, it bothers me, right? There is no reason that you have to get the same bumps and bruises that I did, right? You're going to get your own, right? You're going to get your comeuppance regardless, right? I can't save anyone from that, and that is not my goal. But if I can make the way easier, why not? I stand on the shoulders of so many people. My mother was an educator. She worked in socially, emotionally disturbed education, right? That's what it was called then. We have all these challenges and changes, right? But I worked with people that were born with challenges. When I was literally, my mom would take me to work with her. It was 12, 14, summer camp, Easter Seal Society. I don't know if you're familiar, but yeah, so it's like very philanthropic chops, right? My mom was a Girl Scout leader. She was on the corner when, the drug war was happening in the early 80s and Up with Hope, Down with Dope. Like, this is what
that's catchy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I've never heard of.
See, that's the generational break right there, about 1990.
Up with Hope, Down with Dope.
Yes, right?
Look, the sloganeering of the 80s
But
and 90s
we don't have slogans anymore.
Man,
we
don't have no good slogans.
It was quality. It was quality.
Yes. Yeah. But so when you ask, am I the exception? Absolutely not. Right? Again, I am you and you are me. My children have pivoted. They thought I had one. My oldest was like, yeah, college. I did it, but I don't know that I really got it. My middle child is like, yes, it's the best thing ever. And, my son is kind of somewhere in between the two of them. He's like, yeah, I did it because I needed to make some more money. But you know what I mean? And so embracing life and embracing change. I have one kid that's like, okay, I'm getting ready to go to school and I'm going to, pursue a different path. And one is like, I am her cheerleader and I'm going to be beside her. That's our degree.
Yeah, right.
Put my name on the book. Right. Can they put two names on?
There you go. That is it. So, but the moral of the story is that you get to choose every single day and make those choices, right? Feel empowered to. So we live in this lane that people tell us, ascribe things to us, right? Define yourself, right? And how can we define ourselves, right? And sometimes that starts with a lot of the trauma, right? So a lot of things I talk about healing. For me, this was also a healing journey. I mentioned my grandmother, my maternal grandparents from this area, but my paternal grandparents are from deeper southern roots, Jamaica, South Carolina, Geechee roots. And so I grew up with a lot of shame around those roots. It's a different language, a different dialect. And up in the North, people would ridicule my grandfather. Sometimes I say, "Wait, I say it," and people are like, "What is that? What do you mean?" My husband, and I used to feel like, speak English. I'm like, it is English, right? This was our dialect, our language, right? And it was like shamed because we didn't speak the Queen's English, right? And then I came across this journey that when I went to explore my roots, and shout out to descendants of enslaved laborers at UVA.
Shout out to them.
Yes, because they have been doing some amazing work and getting people to identify with their roots here. So I am a member of the descendants of enslaved laborers at UVA. My family names are on the wall. But it was exploring that and that connection to the roots. That is where I started to find some pride, right? Because being American is great, but when I started looking at it and all the things that America says I am, it wasn't the greatest landscape, right? But when I looked at what my grandmother and my granddaddy and my great grandmother, they were farmers, they were health workers, they were a village, they were supporters, they were lovers, they were hard workers, they were inventors, right? Because we could jerry rig some stuff and make it work,
I know,
right?
that's right.
So in innovators, all of those things are in me. And that was the place that I could embrace, right? I didn't have to worry about being a Black woman in America, because that ain't it. Period.
I just actually asked my friend who worked with the enslaved descendants. I was like, I need a genealogy. How do I start genealogy? I was like, okay, I know my grandparents, and I even know my great grandparents. But after that, it gets a little fuzzy, and I losing history is hard. Yeah,
and see, that's the thing about losing history. So when you talk about history, right, it was snatched from us early, right? So that, again, that's part of our generational trauma. When we talk about slavery, right, I used to be ashamed of saying that I was a descendant of enslaved people, right? It was like, oh, heavy. No, wait a minute. These were some people that were resilient. These were some people that went through some stuff, and I am yet here. I'm still here. I'm still standing, right? I am the mother, the wife. I am educated. I have 4 degrees. I am empowering other people, right? So I've come through some stuff, and I'm still growing, and I'm still learning, and I'm still changing and evolving, and still working to be the best me, right? And I explore the potential in people. And that's just, that literally is just how I'm living. That is literally what my business is. RN Heart Work. Literally, I want to work with people. Price said I'm in all the things. It's so funny because one of my friends is like, she out here trying to save everybody. And I'm like, no, that is not what it is. But I am about my people. And I am trying to save everybody.
Well, you should say, and what about it?
And what about it? That part? But no, like literally, but save you for yourself, not like as a savior, but like saving your hope, saving your love, saving your peace. That, right? The best parts of you that you can share with everyone else. It's our connection that really sustains us.
And so, can you speak a little bit? You're a Black nurse. I know it feels people who see themselves represented in their medical staff. How do you, as a community health worker who talks about education, how do you address the racial disparities in our medical establishment to the people that you're educating? Even as a nurse, to patients that don't feel like, I don't know if I'm getting the quality care. Even people in the community is like, I didn't go when I had chest pain because my great-grandfather went and he went down there and now he's gone. So how do you overcome those barriers to entry into the medical establishment? And you're like, I'm a nurse there. You're like, if you come down there, I'm going to be there. She going to be there.
Right.
And, we're going to take the best care of you. Like, how do you, not convince, but how do you retrain people?
Right. First of all, showing up, right? Be there, because there aren't enough of us there. That's number one. Take your place, take up space. And that's what I did. Literally, when I went to nursing school, when I was at UVA, I was the only Black in my cohort.
How many folks?
30.
Yeah,
1 out of 30. I
feels
wonder,
about-
is that the?
Yep.
I wonder what the national.
That's probably higher than the average.
What is
yeah.
the national standard?
Yeah.
I wonder what
Right.
the numbers are looking like.
They're
Yeah.
small. Yeah.
So there's that. But also recognizing and speaking to those disparities. We live in a world that is trying to erase our history, right? Say something. When you see something, say something. And that is what I do. It's not always the most popular thing, don't get me wrong. But it's the place to embrace who we are wholly. And so that is what I do. So I'm going to be there and I'm going to walk you through it and I'm going to talk you through it. And also, if you're there, somebody else is going to see you, right? So it is like, let's one by one, we can reach the next one. But let's talk about those health disparities, right? Because they're real, right? Why are Black women dying at crazy rates in childbirth, right?
We just had, they were last week, right?
Yeah.
Was that last
First
week?
Sisters, was that last week? Was that last week? 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. We had cookies last week.
Yeah.
We had a bake
On a sunnier
Yes,
note. Yeah,
yes,
But
yes.
we just talked to the birth sisters about this. I guess it was 2 weeks
right?
ago. Yeah.
So there are definitely health disparities. Right now, the project that I'm working on, if you guys have been around and listening, Buy Back the Block, right? This is talking about trying to bring a grocery store back to a neighborhood. It's a historically Black neighborhood that hasn't had a grocery store for almost 20 years, right? When we talk about social determinants of health, right, we're talking about the lived environment, education, poverty, right? We're talking about a low wealth community. We're talking about a community that has been displaced and marginalized, and not having a walkable grocery store, access to healthy, affordable foods, right? When we're talking about that, and I'm working on this project, the Fifield Neighborhood Association is a group of neighbors, a group of people, regular people volunteering to see good change in the place that they live, right? I partnered with them just about that. There's low food access, which affects our health. People don't realize that not having access to healthy foods, that affects mental health. We're talking about COVID, coming out of COVID. We're talking about mental health crisis. First of all, talking about disparities as it relates to race. If a white person is acting out at the age of 5, they're just misbehaving. If a Black person is acting out at the age of 5, that's going to be them the rest of their life. We've got to get them into some programs, right? It looks different. Little Johnny is going to be fine, but over here, Jackson needs some discipline. Right? Wait a minute. What are we talking about? Right? The disparities in how we educate children and raise them and rear them, right? What does that journey look like? If, when we get to certain ages, we start seeing that Black children are going into the judicial system and white children are going into the educational system, right? They're going to higher education. Why is that? How do we undo that, right? The first thing is educating those children, right? Educating the parents, getting back to intergenerational connection, right? Like I said, I mentioned my grandma. I mentioned my mother. When people see me out in the street, if your child is acting up, I'm going to say something, right? See something, say something. Baby, now, what I say looks different for each child because I want to get to the root of it, right? I'm not just ascribing anything to anyone, right? Maybe they're cold. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they had some trauma at home before they got to the place that they're in. You know what I mean? So how do we explore those things and see people, right, as opposed to circumstances? That is the thing that I work on. So this Buy Back the Block initiative, and people were like, oh, what are you talking about, Buy Back the Block? We never owned the block. Well, the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center has been doing some original deed work.
Some research.
Yes, right? So Fifield was a plantation, several years back. It was a plantation. And then after slavery, there was sharecropping, right? So the people that inhabited that land were Black people, right? The first deeds for Fifield, Black people.
Period.
Right? That part.
So we did own the block.
Listen, right?
That's what they keep forgetting. We in fact did own it, and if we didn't own it, we worked at it, and working on it is like ownership of it.
Who toiled the land? Who made it livable? Right? Who built these houses? Right? On the backs of Black bodies. But also, Fifeville was connected to Vinegar Hill. We've talked about raise, right? So when we talk about the systemic racism of it all, right? Right now, UVA is still encroaching. They just bought Oaklawn, which was the Fife Plantation. They bought Grove Street. So they are still encroaching. We're talking about there is no Black commercial ownership in this historically Black place, right? Nobody really wants to talk about that. So part of what I did in this process was the education. I designed this community engagement process to educate our people, right? Again, we perish for lack of knowledge. What used to be there? How did we used to function? They talked about the grocery store that used to be there and the fact that you could go there, you could get your hair done, you could play chess, you could learn this, right? You were getting educated. You were a part of something. And that's what we need to bring back, being a part, right? So that's also part of the work that I'm doing. And I hope I'm not just, it's about impact, hopefully, right? It's about legacy. Really, the legacy that I am trying to build is self-empowered and enlightened people. And I talk about Black a lot because I am Black and I have embraced my Blackness and I am proud of it. But we are a diverse people, right? We don't live in isolation. I said I'm a child of God, right? I love all of God's people. Right. I've got white friends. You might catch that later. But all of the people that are here with me in this journey are my people. Now, some people serve us and some people don't. It is our job to realize which ones they are. And again, respond accordingly and not be in a reactive place.
If you are just jumping in, this is Envision Radio from the United Way of Greater Charlottesville, City of Promise, News Radio 98.9, 1070 AM WINA. Price and Markey here with Deanna McDonald. Let me ask you a question about kind of the mix between, I guess, what we could consider sort of the qualitative measure of kind of hope in the horizon and then the practicality of the circumstance. Because you could, I think, I hear this often, and you know, one could probably cogently argue that it doesn't matter when we talk about folks who, you know, are living in poverty, who are experiencing homelessness and all these things. Hope doesn't pay bills. Hope doesn't pay rent. It doesn't, right? And so how do you mix those two things? How do you mix the very obvious positive impact of mentality with the reality that there's also a massive resource deficit, right? With we can have all the talks we want about trying harder in school and learning math and doing all the stuff. If you don't run me my money, none of this matters, right? And I'm thinking, you know, and even in the context of all the projects that you're working on, that we are all working on, is like, you can have the best business plan in the world. If that developer doesn't pony up, we don't have the thing, right? And so, you know, how do you work in that space, understanding that both are true? But I think, and I would argue for a long time, particularly in the nonprofit world, we're very good at the theory. We're very good at the idea. We're very good at the, like, you know, we say the thing, right? We've got to work hard. We got to be great and da-da-da-da-da. And then at the end of the day, they're like, all right, cool. What does that earn me from it? What's the incentive? And we're like, well, okay. The joy of learning. And they're like, that doesn't pay my car payment, though.
Right. Right. So two things there. So you talked about resources. I don't operate from a scarcity mindset. And I think that is the place that holds us and that binds people, right? Because if you are thinking, I don't know if I'm going to make it, I don't know if I'm going to succeed, I don't know if I can, you know, you operate differently, right? So I was just in a meeting with a bunch of community health workers, and the mayor of this city said, Charlottesville is rich. We got plenty of money.
Sure.
Right? So we just talked about gatekeeping. Yeah. So access to the resource, it's not limited resources, it's access, right? And so one of the things that I do is I am a connector. I am a bridge. As a community health worker, I bridge people to the access, right? If there is a gap, how do we get from this side to that side? And let's build those steps. And so that is what it is, literally means to walk alongside people, right? If you can't walk, let me carry you until you can. And then as I'm carrying you, I'm teaching you, I'm showing you, I'm helping you build your chops, letting you rest while, because sometimes people do need to rest in this process. Whatever that looks like, until you can carry yourself, until you're strong enough, until you get connected to that resource. And so that's the first place, not from a scarcity mindset. Also, and that's a both and conversation, because as you mentioned, right, some people are dealing with some real hard stuff, right? They have $5 to get them to the next paycheck, right? They don't have time to come to my education seminar, right? Sure. Period.
That's right.
Real talk. But that's the part about pressing into our communities, right? So then let me take this education to you. Let me come sit with you. Let me watch your child. Part of my community education forums is I ensure that there were child care available, right? So that the parents can have the time to get this information and know that their child is safe in the same environment, right? Because that matters too. So, but we've bought into this idea of YOLO, right? That takes away some responsibility, right? We got to bring back some basic thought processes, right? That we have a responsibility for our own lives. And then again, trying to connect. Trauma keeps us from connection, right? So that's also why I talk about teaching people to what healing is, because healing is actually a process. It is not a Band-Aid. It is not going to be better tomorrow, right? You got to go through the process. And sometimes that involves looking at self, taking ownership and responsibility for your part and where you are, right? And then you also get to look at what the system's part is and where you are. If we come together collectively, we have a dynamic power that we can change some of those systemic problems that are affecting us, right? That collective bargaining, working together. And we're missing that right now because it's the team of I need to be better than you. I need to run faster, run harder, run farther, all of those things. But together we're stronger. So I don't discount, as I said, if I can feed someone, if I can clothe someone, if I can listen to someone, right? Any of the things that we need to do to move the needle. But we've all got to do it. We've all got to do it.
So I want to know a little bit about, you're a nurse, a community health worker, the transition to being a business owner. And, now you have to be in these meetings, and now you gotta you gotta go to the bank and work on the budget, and now I ain't been in the community part that put the passion into starting the business. I'm not out in the streets like I used to. Now I gotta be at the board meeting. Now I gotta get the advisors together. I would love to hear about that transition. And do you feel like the passion for the on the ground work has had to take a bit of a back seat in the business aspect of trying to educate and educate people on being community health workers?
You're talking about balance. I'm not gonna say that I have achieved that. I work towards it. Some days I'm winning, and some days I'm working on winning. And so that is definitely something. But it is also sometimes prioritizing, right? Today, it's just like raising my kids. One day, my son might need more attention than my daughter does, right? All days, my husband needs my attention, right? And some days, I might miss the mark, right? Giving myself grace, living in that space. But you have to do the things, right? So that is a part of that business degree that I have also, right? So it's about strategic planning. It's about allocating the resources. It's about making sure you got a budget, making sure you got a plan, right? All of those things are the business part of it. You're absolutely right. You got to take care of business. And being in those spaces, though, right? There are a lot of people like, oh, I'm not going to that meeting. Oh, those people are just talking. But being in those spaces affords you education. Be in the room. Right? Exactly. If I'm not at the table, I don't know what's going on. Right? I'm only gonna get crumbs if I'm not at the table. If I'm at the table, I can reach for my slice of the cake. Right? My portion. So that is really the purpose of being in those boardrooms and being in those meetings, and there are a lot of them. But it's also about collaboration. I don't know if you understand this theme, but connection, collaboration, partnership, right? The team of we, Amaha Salesi just said it in one of my last education forums. We are the people we need, right? Nobody is going to show up to fix our stuff. We have to show up, right? We're seeing a lot of violence right now, right? Everybody be, oh, that ain't my child, that ain't my business, right? Every child that is hurting is my business, right? How do we make that a reality? I grew up in that reality. I'm telling you, I couldn't walk down the street. Came up in the era where when the street light came on, you knew that you needed to be at home. And if you weren't, Miss Sally across the street was, do your mama know where you are? Right? That part. When you showed up at somebody's house, they would say, who is your mother? Who is your father? Right? It was that connection to who you are and also making you recognize who you are, right? Because my mom used to say, you represent me when you go out that door. Right? So I represent all of those people. And so all of that connection is really, really, really important.
Well, you go.
We taking turns now? Is that
how we do? I asked a couple questions.
How things work? I'm interested in your theory on kind of the intersectionality of all these issues, and I think that we have a tendency to issue select. It's education, it's health, it's food, it's transportation, it's childcare, it's mental health, it's healthcare, etc. What is your point of view on the dependency in the system, really? Because I think what we've noticed is, again, to your point, you can do great work on a thing, but it doesn't move the aggregate very much because it excludes 400 other things. And I think that has been a little bit of the tale of the town, is like we have gone whole hog on whatever the topic du jour may be at the expense of the complementary parts and pieces, right? So how do you and how does your work support that theory that, like, hey, even though my expertise is in healthcare and there is a spider effect into these other things that, you need quality in a lot of different domains to make it work. And I think that in a place and in an era, is your business a nonprofit?
No, it is not.
Smart. but I think that's part of the question is how do you envision that interacting, right? For-profit sector, nonprofit sector, schools. I mean, do you have a sort of a point of view on how all of these things can all operate at a high level and operate together, given what we know about sort of the incentives of each bucket, and how sometimes they can appear to be in conflict, right? I'm not arguing that they are, but I am arguing that they certainly can appear to be. How have you found that in sort of the in your working relationships?
So you touched on a whole lot. Like I said, he's got mouthfuls. Like, it's not just So the interworkings of all of these things really boils down to, what is the purpose? What is the mission? Right? Is it to heal? Is it to help? Is it to build? What is the mission? Right? So in education, in healthcare, in business, my goal is to elevate people. And so I work in all of those areas and all of those things. I show up in all of the parts of me in all of those rooms. The nonprofit world is Price mentioned, here in Charlottesville, it's funny. It's a little weird, right? Because we are in a resource dense area, right? So people do get a lot of things for free here. And so when I come in and I have a business, my family needs to eat and I need to charge, right? Because I'm not a nonprofit. There are people who will see the value in my services, and there are those who will not.
Sure.
And I focus on those that see the value. Period. Right? I can't spin my wheels on the other side of that. I have also considered bringing a non-profit alongside. And that's one of those things where I encourage people to get out of the silos, right? You don't have to be either or. I like to parlay. I want to be in the mix, really. And not just for the sake of being busy, but for the sake of it takes pieces from all of the places. There was, when I was younger in history, they talked about the Chinese culture. And then the fact that the Chinese culture takes from different cultures. But what they take is the best of, and they leave the rest. Right? So you might be doing some great things, but I might not like all the things. Well, I could take the greatness and leave the rest. Those are the things that I strive to do. I want somebody to take the best. Don't take my screw ups, because I got a few of them, right? Don't take that part of it. Take the best of me, and I'm offering the best of me. So that's the thing, pricing those and trying to find that balance and being in those spaces and how it all works together. I think it's taking what serves in the moment. And that's where I live.
You talked a little, maybe we probably talked off. Sometimes we talk before the show start. That's my fault. It's all our fault. But you talk a little bit about loving to sing and your faith. I'd love, the job is great. The working is great. We like to go to work. We like to cash checks. I want to talk to you a little bit about your faith and what you do outside of work, but and how that motivates you, inspires you to even do the work that you do in your professional life.
Yeah. My faith sustains me, right?
And if you want to sing, you can. one of the ones that's in the King James. One of the old ones that they're not gonna charge.
It's not digital yet.
Only in the scripture.
That is so funny. But yeah, so funny thing about Price sharing how old he is. He sent me a message that told me he wasn't in an age group recently, and I was like, wait a minute, I know how old you are.
I wasn't. It was capped at 35. I'm out of the 35. I'm in my late 30s.
Just out. Like, literally just this year. It was so funny. I was like, I know your mama. I was like, sir.
That's why I didn't lie. It's verifiable information.
Every time we're on here talking about age, I never say mine, thank God.
We know how old you are based on the lack of your 90s sloganeering.
Yeah.
It's fun to be young.
But faith grounds me. When I'm lost in who the world says I am, and you guys have heard me, I can spew off titles, yes. But really, my faith tells me who I am. Really. I want to live in God's image, right? God was meek, and a lot of people say, oh, meekness, oh, that's weakness. No, he was confident. Jesus was confident in who his father was. Like, he had all power and still dealt with all of our stuff. That is a level of kindness that I aspire to have. Because you know how sometimes I'm like, I'm not dealing with you and your stuff.
So I actually heard one time that sometimes you can be nice but not kind. And sometimes you can be kind but not nice. What you mean? I don't know what you Price want me to say. It resonated resonated with me in a way that's like, yeah.
How?
Sometimes with the niceties, it's like politicians can be nice, but they're probably like, you know, like.
So
they
we're
don't have a
defining
kindness.
nice as
like
more
nice
of
is
a
like
facade?
you know how people like you need to speak when you come in. I can speak. That don't mean that I'm going to treat you in a positive way and show you kindness.
Interesting. Okay.
Some things are just
Formality.
political niceties, but that doesn't make me kind.
So is the argument that niceness
It's not-
popularly lacks
It's
depth?
not worth nothing.
Interesting. Okay.
It's not worth nothing.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, you should. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was. I forgot. It was like one of those Black women writers, and I cannot. I don't know if it was. She was. I feel like she was just here. She had like a movie about Mars. Last film festival. God, it's escaping me. It's escaping me. She's like famous. A famous.
She lives here?
No, she doesn't.
Oh,
She's a famous Black writer. She's short hair. I don't know. It's not blonde. I guess it's white. It's bad because I should know her name because she's notable.
She's notable.
Yeah, Giovanni.
Nikki Giovanni.
Yeah, maybe Nikki Giovanni was here, and I think she said something about the idea of niceness.
Okay.
And then the idea of kindness. She says that I am not nice, but I am kind. I don't know if resonated with me.
You know, I can identify with that in some manner, right? Because I literally was in a room and I made this statement about holding people accountable. You might not think it's nice that I hold you accountable.
Right.
Right. But I can be kind in that.
Right.
And so I can identify with that. Right. You might not think it's nice that I am critiquing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are
your...
about the way you said the thing, not the fact that like somebody hurt me, but you didn't say it nice. Okay, well, I didn't say it to be nice. I said it to hold people accountable. To like my kindness was in protecting my community, and people don't like the way you say things, even if you're telling the truth.
Yeah, right. And so that's a word, because some of the things that I do, I in my work, I have what's called street sheets, right? And so those sheets are about resources. That's really what it is, right? It doesn't matter that we have 10 mental health entities in Charlottesville if the person living on the south side of town can't get to them or doesn't even know they exist, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is verify the resource. Because if I share a resource with you and then you go to reach out and you can't make the connection, I haven't helped you, right? So part of what I do is also hold those people that are the resources or that hold the resources accountable, right? If I send someone to you and you make it hard for them to access the resources that I have said that you have for them, you're not helping. I'm also not helping because I just sent them another roadblock. I just sent them another disappointment. You know what I mean? Any of those things. So part of what I do is verify. Trust, but verify. So part of what I do is verify. And then if you're not making the mark, you're not doing the things that your company says they do, then I'm going to hold you accountable. People don't like that. Right? That is the part that people think is not nice. From my position, it is kind, though.
Yeah.
Because one, perhaps you don't know you're missing the mark, right? Sometimes we're in our own bubbles and we don't know how we're affecting people. We think we're doing good work, right? One of the things I do, I've got a survey out right now, is tell me how we're doing. Tell me what you want. Your voice matters. And people's voices have been stifled for so long that they don't know how to use them. Right? And so I keep telling people, I need you to tell me. I want to hear from you. Your voice matters. Elevate your voice. And that is a part of advocacy, right? Sometimes people think it's about me showing up and me. For years, people didn't even know my name. I was in the room, but they didn't know who I was. And I was fine with that, right? Part of my mentorship, when I've worked with children and youth, I love children because my legacy is succession. Not what I did, but how can the next generation continue? How can they thrive? How can they be better than me? That is my legacy, the succession of it all. And I ask people a lot, what's your succession plan? Right? Because I could be doing great work. If there is not somebody coming behind me, you hear people say all the time, your employer will replace you in a blink. Mm-hmm. We are burnt out, stressed out, pulling our hair out, trying to meet the goals and all of the benchmarks for the company. And tomorrow, okay?
Get to stepping.
You understand what I'm saying? So what is the succession plan? Because if I'm the black nurse in that space and I haven't made room for the next black nurse to come in,
that's a really good point.
There's a gap again, right? This grocery store, if we can get a grocery store there and we don't have a succession plan for how the next generation is going to continue to support and continue to elevate, 20 years from now, it'd be the same situation, the same conversation. So undoing some of this culture of I, and coming back to the we and the connectedness is really what I hope for.
The last question I have is, what is your goals for the future and your vision for the future for RN Heart?
Is to continue to support self-enlightenment, to continue to support healing, and to continue to support health equity, right? Health equity, right? Long life, quality of life, right? The same access to that. When we talk about health equity, one of the things is resources that Price talks about, right? We haven't had the same amount of resources for how long as black people, right? So those low wealth economies and places, we need to help lift them, right? The rising tide lifts all boats. So we need to work in those veins. And so that is my goal for RN Heart Work, to continue to support, continue to enlighten health literacy, educate people, to empower themselves, right? Building strength in our people.
So if people want to reach out to you and learn more, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So they can reach me at rnheartwork@gmail.com. That's RN as in registered nurse, heart as in the organ, at gmail.com. So this is my heart's work, as you've heard me say. Also, they can reach me directly at 434-218-0740. They can go out to my website, rnheartwork.com. It's currently under reconstruction, but my website, rnheartwork.com. Anyway, if you see me on the street, stop and let's talk about what's going on in your world. Cause I care. You know, people say, how you doing? And I'm okay.
Yeah.
No, I really want to know, how are you?
Say the truth.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Well, thank you so much, Deanna, for coming here today. We're going to sign off. If you have any ideas for Envision Radio, please reach out to us. We cannot do this work without all of you and our amazing guests and WINA, City of Promise, United Way of Greater Charlottesville. We continue to do this work with donations from everyone out there. So please let us know, and we'll be back next week. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.